Australia is a continent that feels endless, a land where deserts stretch so far the horizon bends, where dust storms can swallow towns whole, and where silence lingers like a second atmosphere. But hidden inside this emptiness is something stranger, vast zones where you are not allowed to go. On the maps, they appear as shaded blocks covering thousands of square kilometers, regions larger than entire countries. They are marked as prohibited, restricted, closed. Their borders are invisible on the ground, but enforced by fences, patrols, and law. Stray too close and you'll be turned back. Sometimes with warnings, sometimes with force. It would be tempting to think these forbidden places are rare, isolated corners of the Outback. The truth is far more unsettling. Taken together, they form a patchwork across the continent, a second Australia, one sealed from view. Entire valleys, whole stretches of desert, even forgotten towns, evacuated and erased from public life, remain locked away inside these zones. And the restrictions do not end at the desert's edge. Offshore, enormous maritime exclusion zones extend hundreds of kilometers out to sea. Civilian ships are banned from approaching, fishing boats are warned back by patrols, and pilots describe dead corridors where navigation signals mysteriously fail. Radar screens flicker into static, compasses drift, and the sky becomes as empty as the sea below. Why does one of the least populated countries on Earth guard so much of its own land and ocean from its people? The official explanations vary. Military testing, radiation hazards, sacred lands. On paper, it makes sense. But the sheer scale, regions larger than nations, airspace where aircraft cannot fly, seas where no ship dares travel, demands a deeper question. What could be so dangerous, or so valuable, that it must be sealed away on such a scale? In the satellite age, one might expect such secrets to be exposed, yet strange anomalies appear even from orbit. Entire areas of central and western Australia show up on Google Earth at reduced resolution, blurred or patched with strange digital scars. A glitch, perhaps, or censorship by design. And wherever access is denied, stories thrive. Travelers in the Outback tell of nights when the desert hums with a low mechanical vibration, as though something vast moves beneath the sand. Others claim to have seen lights streaking silently across the sky, objects faster than any jet, vanishing as suddenly as they appeared. Aboriginal elders speak of sacred places where sky beings once descended, places modern governments also declare forbidden, though their reasons are never explained. Coincidence, or continuity of something guarded across centuries? These forbidden zones are not curiosities. They are connected, forming a hidden web of silence that overlays the continent like a shadow map. Some of the names are infamous: Pine Gap, Woomera, Maralinga. Others remain nameless, marked only by coordinates and warnings. Radiation hazard, prohibited area, no entry. Different words, same meaning. The land is closed, the seas are closed, and what lies within is not for you to know. This is the paradox of Australia. To the outside world it is vast and open, red deserts, blue skies, and horizons without end. But within its borders lies another Australia, hidden, fenced, and untold. A land of silence, where abandoned settlements rot in forbidden valleys, where maps blur into secrecy, and where every locked gate forces the same question to echo louder: what lies inside the zones we are forbidden to see? Deep in the heart of Australia, hidden beneath the silence of the Outback, lies a facility so secretive that most citizens know it only by name. From the air, Pine Gap looks harmless, a scattering of white domes rising from the desert floor near Alice Springs. To the government, it is a joint defense station, an intelligence facility shared by the United States and Australia. But no one outside its walls has ever seen what truly happens there. The fences bristle with cameras and motion sensors. Armed patrols circle day and night. The skies above are off limits to civilian aircraft, and trespassers risk not only arrest, but disappearance from record. Pine Gap is closed, not just physically, but informationally. Even its budget is buried in classified ledgers. The official story is surveillance, satellites, missile tracking, signals intelligence, enough truth to satisfy the curious. But the deeper one looks, the stranger the details become. Engineers who once worked nearby whispered of massive excavations during construction in the 1960s, earthworks so large that no one could explain where the displaced soil was taken. Local rumors insist the base is only a surface mask, hiding levels that plunge deep into the rock, linked by tunnels no outsider has ever seen. And then there are the lights. For decades, Residents of Alice Springs have reported luminous objects over the facility, spheres that hover silently. Too many witnesses, too consistent to dismiss as imagination. Each sighting is the same, the sky above Pine Gap behaving as though the rules of flight no longer apply. If Pine Gap is Australia's hidden ear, then Woomera is its iron fist. Stretching across the Outback, the Woomera Prohibited Area is larger than the entire United Kingdom. A landmass sealed off, patrolled by military convoys, and shaded gray on maps as if it were simply erased. During the Cold War, Woomera was a proving ground for missiles, rockets, and nuclear research. The desert thundered with launches, its sky filled with trails of fire. Entire Aboriginal communities were uprooted to clear the land. Towns were evacuated and left to decay, their remains still rotting inside the restricted zone. Today, the boundaries shift unpredictably, opening and closing without notice. Even pilots navigating across the continent steer hundreds of kilometers around it, as though skirting the edge of an invisible country. From orbit, Woomera is equally unsettling. Satellite images of the zone often blur or degrade, as though the Earth itself is hiding something. Travelers who have skirted its edges tell of sudden engine failures, of compasses spinning uselessly, of radio silence where the air should be alive with signal. At night, strange lights rise from its heart, glowing objects with no sound, no smoke, and no explanation. Officially, the tests continue. Advanced missiles, joint projects with foreign powers, experimental drones. But the rumors are darker. Some say Woomera has seen aircraft that never existed on paper, craft able to hover, then streak upward at impossible speed. Together, Pine Gap and Woomera form the hidden spine of Australia's secret world. One listens, intercepts, and observes. The other tests, launches, and destroys. One sinks into the ground, perhaps deeper than anyone admits. The other sprawls across a continent, swallowing towns, deserts, and skies. Both remain closed, guarded not just by soldiers but by silence. And beyond these military frontiers lies something stranger still. A zone not hidden for what it builds, but for what it destroyed. A scar on the earth where the air still hums with radiation, where the soil itself glows with the memory of fire. Its name is Maralinga, and its shadow is never faded. Not all of Australia's forbidden zones are sealed to protect technology. Some are closed because they are poisoned. And at Maralinga, in the far reaches of South Australia, the very soil carries a secret that burns in silence. In the 1950s and 60s, Britain used Maralinga as a testing ground for nuclear weapons. Far from Europe, hidden in the desert, it seemed the perfect place to conduct experiments too dangerous for home soil. The blasts were spectacular, mushroom clouds blooming against the horizon, shock waves racing across the sand. Official photographs portrayed control and precision. What they concealed was chaos. 7 full-scale nuclear bombs were detonated here, but even more disturbing were the so-called minor trials. Hundreds of smaller experiments designed to test plutonium triggers, dispersal patterns, and contamination effects. Devices were deliberately blown apart, scattering radioactive material across the desert. Vast quantities of plutonium, one of the deadliest substances on Earth, were simply left behind. Communities were never told the truth. Aboriginal families were displaced, marched away from their ancestral lands. Some returned unknowingly, walking across Earth coated in invisible poison. Soldiers ordered to participate in the tests were given no protective clothing, no warnings, no masks. They stood on the sand as bombs erupted in fire, told only to turn their backs and cover their eyes. Many would later fall ill. Few were ever compensated. The contamination lingered. Long after the tests ended, winds swept particles of plutonium across the desert. Rain carried it into dry riverbeds. Wildlife absorbed it into bone and muscle. The earth itself seemed cursed, glowing not with light, but with danger. Even when Australia finally demanded cleanup in the 1980s, the effort was incomplete. Bulldozers scraped the desert floor, burying the topsoil in deep trenches. But the poison was not removed, only hidden, sealed beneath layers of sand. To this day, large portions of Maralinga remain closed, marked by warning signs and fences. Radiation monitors dot the land, silent sentinels measuring an enemy that never sleeps. The official line is that most of the site is safe now, yet those who have walked the boundaries tell a different story, of Geiger counters spiking to dangerous levels, of birds and animals avoiding certain valleys, of old test pits that still whisper heat long after the fire has gone. There are stranger stories, too. Travelers speak of nights when the desert glows faintly, as if remembering the blasts. Others claim to feel a vibration underfoot, a deep hum like something buried is still alive beneath the sands. Scientists dismiss such accounts as imagination, but how much can be trusted when the full records remain classified, and when so many who lived through it were silenced before their time? Maralinga is not a place of speculation alone. It is proof that some of Australia's restricted zones are forbidden because they conceal crimes too great to be forgotten. Here, secrecy was not about protecting national security, but about hiding the cost of reckless ambition. The victims were the land itself, its people, and its future. If Pine Gap represents technology, and Woomera represents control, then Maralinga is something else entirely, a scar, a wound carved into the earth by fire, still bleeding poison decades later, and it serves as a reminder that forbidden zones are not only about what is hidden, but about what should never have been unleashed at all. Beyond Maralinga, the map of silence continues. Yet here, the reasons for restriction are even older than missiles or bombs. They lie not in Cold War politics, but in myth, legend, and sacred law, places where outsiders are forbidden, not by governments, but by time itself. Not every forbidden place in Australia is guarded by fences or soldiers. Some are closed for reasons far older than governments, older even than recorded history. In the myths of the Aboriginal peoples, there are places where outsiders must never tread, lands where spirits dwell, where ancestors walk unseen, where contact brings misfortune or death. To many Australians, these are sacred sites. To the elders who guard them, they are far more. Places of power, bound to the origins of the world, and to modern authorities, they are zones marked in red on maps, sealed not just out of respect, but sometimes, it seems, out of fear. Arnhem Land, in the far north, is one of the largest such restricted regions. Outsiders require special permits to enter, and many areas remain completely off-limits. Here, in vast sandstone plateaus, ancient rock art stretches across cave walls, figures painted tens of thousands of years ago. Some resemble animals, some humans, and some something else. Tall beings with elongated limbs, large eyes, and strange headdresses, painted in ochre long before the first Europeans arrived. The Yolngu people call them the Mimi spirits. To outsiders, they look hauntingly like otherworldly visitors. At Uluru, the great red monolith once called Ayers Rock, access has also been restricted. For decades, tourists climbed its slopes, leaving scars on a site the Anangu people considered sacred. In recent years, climbing has been banned. Entire portions of the surrounding land remain sealed, their rituals and stories known only to initiated elders. Travelers who have strayed too close speak of a silence that feels heavy, of sudden winds rising without cause, of an atmosphere that makes the skin prickle as though watched. There are other places, marked only by warnings and stories, valleys where elders say the sky beings descended, waterholes where it is forbidden to drink, said to be guarded by serpents from the Dreamtime. Some of these zones overlap curiously with areas restricted by the government, overlaps explained officially as conservation or heritage. Yet locals whisper that the state respects the same boundaries the ancestors once marked. What makes these sacred zones so mysterious is their endurance. Empires have risen and fallen, technology has transformed the world, yet the prohibition on entering these lands has never been broken. Thousands of years of silence have preserved them. And when modern explorers or miners have ignored the rules, the stories say the land itself responds. Equipment fails, accidents happen. The desert reclaims intruders quickly. To skeptics, this is coincidence. To believers, it is proof that some places are guarded by forces beyond comprehension. Either way, the outcome is the same. The zones remain closed, untouched, unexplained. Together, they form the most enigmatic layer of Australia's hidden map. Unlike Pine Gap or Woomera, they do not bristle with fences. Unlike Maralinga, they do not glow with radiation. They are quiet, timeless, waiting. And in their silence lies the deepest mystery of all. Why, across millennia, they have remained forbidden. It is here that Australia's two shadowed worlds meet, the ancient and the modern, the spiritual and the military, sacred boundaries and state-enforced prohibitions. And in their overlap, questions emerge. Did the ancients know something the modern world has forgotten? Are governments protecting heritage or protecting secrets? Whatever the answer, the result is the same. A continent that appears vast and open is, in truth, a mosaic of silence. A land where forbidden zones stretch from military deserts to sacred valleys, from poisoned sands to blurred coastlines, each one marked with warnings, each one hiding something the world is not allowed to see.